The snow fell in thick, silent sheets over Chicago that night, burying the streets beneath a frozen stillness. People hurried past in heavy coats, their breath fogging the air as they rushed toward warmth and safety. But on a quiet corner near Monroe Street, a young woman sat alone beneath a flickering streetlight, her body shivering, her eyes empty but defiant. Her name was Lily Parker, 28 years old, and life had taken everything from her. Her dreams, her home, her family, all gone. All she had left were the clothes on her back, a worn backpack with a photo of her mother inside, and 8 crumpled dollars tucked in her pocket, the last reminder that she still had something to hold on to. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. The cold bit into her fingers like needles, and her stomach groaned with hunger. Still, she refused to beg. Pride was a strange thing. Even when the world tore her apart, it was the last piece of herself she wouldn't surrender. She looked at the $8 and thought about what she could do. Maybe a small sandwich, maybe a hot cup of coffee to get her through another night. But as she stood to cross the street toward a small diner, fate had other plans. Backhand index pointing right. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us keep sharing stories that remind the world that good still exists, even in the darkest places. As Lily approached the diner, she noticed a man standing near the bus stop across the road. He looked different from the others, not homeless, not careless, but desperate. His coat was open, his hair tousled from the wind, and in his arms, a small baby cried uncontrollably. The sound pierced through the night, raw and painful. The man's eyes darted from his phone to his surroundings, panic written all over his face. He was murmuring softly to the baby, trying to calm her, but his voice was shaking. Lily's instincts told her something was wrong. She watched as he reached into his pockets, searching frantically. Then he muttered something, his shoulders slumping in defeat. The baby's cries grew louder. Lily's heart clenched. She'd seen hunger in children's eyes before when she volunteered at shelters before her life had fallen apart. But this was different. There was fear in that man's face, the fear of a father who couldn't protect his child. She followed him as he hurried into a small convenience store, still bouncing the crying baby in his arms. Inside, the clerk shook his head. The man was pleading, pointing at a can of baby formula on the counter. The clerk refused to hand it over without payment. Lily's stomach twisted. She could have turned away. No one would have blamed her. She had nothing. But as she looked at the crying child, she remembered something her mother used to say before cancer took her away. Kindness costs nothing, but it can change everything. Her fingers trembled as she reached into her pocket and pulled out the $8, her last bit of hope, and placed it on the counter. Her voice was quiet but steady. "That should be enough," she said. The clerk glanced at her in surprise, then at the man, and finally rang it up. The man turned to her, speechless. His eyes were wide, a mix of gratitude, confusion, and disbelief. Before he could say anything, Lily simply nodded, gave a small smile, and whispered, "Take care of her." Then she walked out into the cold again, the bell above the door jingling softly behind her. Outside, the snow had grown heavier. Lily pulled her coat tight, her stomach hollow but her heart strangely full. She had no idea who that man was. She only knew that for once, she hadn't been invisible. For once, she'd made a difference, however small. But life has a way of remembering moments like that. The man she helped was Daniel Roth, a single father and the CEO of Roth Industries, one of Chicago's most successful tech firms. Despite his wealth, Daniel had come from nothing. He'd grown up in poverty, worked his way through college, and built an empire brick by brick. That night, he had taken his baby daughter, Emma, out to visit her grandmother, but somewhere along the way, his wallet slipped from his coat pocket. He hadn't realized it until he stood at that counter, helpless and humiliated, facing the possibility of not being able to feed his child. When Lily handed over her last few dollars, something inside him shifted. It wasn't just gratitude, it was a reminder of who he used to be. The next morning, he couldn't stop thinking about her. Her thin frame, her trembling hands, the quiet strength in her eyes. He knew she had nothing, and yet she'd given everything. He made a decision. For 2 days, Daniel searched the area where he'd met her. He talked to shop owners, street vendors, even the clerk who'd witnessed it all. Finally, One of the shelter workers near Wacker Drive mentioned a young homeless woman who matched her description. Someone who kept to herself but always shared what little she had with others. He found her sitting near a bridge, trying to keep warm with a cardboard blanket and a paper cup beside her. She looked up when she saw him, confusion crossing her face. Daniel smiled softly and knelt in front of her. He told her who he was, that he'd been looking for her since that night. Lily didn't understand why. He explained that the baby she'd helped, his daughter Emma, was safe, healthy, and fed, thanks to her. She tried to brush it off, saying it was nothing, that she only did what anyone would do. But Daniel knew better. Not everyone would give away their last $8 to a stranger. He handed her a business card and a sealed envelope. Inside was a letter offering her a position at one of his company's community outreach centers, not as charity, but as recognition for the compassion and courage she had shown when she had nothing to give. The job came with a modest salary, a warm place to stay, and a second chance. Lily couldn't hold back the tears. For the first time in years, she felt seen, valued. She accepted the offer, though part of her feared it was too good to be true, but it wasn't. Over the next few months, Lily flourished. She worked harder than anyone else at the center, always the first to arrive and the last to leave. She organized meal drives, counseled struggling women, and became a beacon of hope for people who had lost everything, just as she once had. Daniel visited often, bringing Emma with him, who quickly grew attached to Lily. Their bond deepened over time, not out of pity, but mutual respect and shared humanity. Daniel saw in her the strength he admired most, resilience. And Lily found in him something she'd never had before, someone who believed in her potential. One evening, nearly a year after that snowy night, Daniel invited her to a charity gala hosted by his company. She felt out of place at first, standing in a borrowed dress surrounded by the city's elite. But when Daniel took the stage to speak, he told the crowd about the moment that changed his life. The moment a homeless woman gave him her last $8 to help feed his child. Then he looked at her. "That woman is here tonight," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. "She reminded me that humanity's greatest wealth isn't found in money. It's found in kindness." The room erupted in applause. Lily's eyes filled with tears. For years, she had felt invisible, like the world had moved on without her. But in that moment, she realized her small act had not just changed one life. It had rippled into countless others. After the event, Daniel approached her quietly and said, "You didn't just save my daughter that night, Lily. You saved me too." Her heart swelled with emotion. She smiled, her voice barely above a whisper. Sometimes, all it takes is one person choosing kindness. And from that night onward, she was no longer the homeless girl. She was Lily Parker, director of Hope Foundation, helping others find the same second chance she had been given. The city that once looked past her now looked up to her. And every winter, when the snow began to fall, Lily would walk to that same street corner with a thermos of coffee and a bag of sandwiches, waiting for someone else who might need a little help, just like she once did.